Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
This is Jason Todd of Spades and Blades, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. It's getting very close to Halloween, very, very close. I hope you guys and gals got your costumes ready, and plus give out tons of candy, and pick up some EPs and throw in a little trick-or-treat bag, so that way they can, let mom and dad hear what we give them. So that's a cool little treat. Today it's an honor and a privilege to have Mr. Jason Todd, vocalist of Spades and Blades. Spades and Blades will release their EP, Beat the Odds, and that will be released tomorrow. So you want to pick this up and give this band a listen. If you like some heavy stuff, they will hit you in the face and beat you till you give in. So, Jason, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So how's it been working with Seek and Strike and George with his publicity group so far?
It's been great. Those guys were referred to us by another friend of ours, Dan Rosenblum, and, we were grateful to be put into their path, and they have really provided a lot of insight for us and some direction on things, and, of course, helping us get this EP all wrapped up and ready to release so that we can put it out there to the metal masses and get some heads banging. This
is something I wanted to ask you because it seems like there's kind of like a time gap in between releases and things like that. Is this just something that you guys have designed, or are you just taking your time to put stuff out and be happy with it, to look back on it and say, yeah, it was worth the time to slow down? Well, there were a number of things that took place after we wrapped up the demanufactured tour with Fear Factory, which is when we had released our last album. Some things that were beyond our control. We had some lineup change stuff going on. But then there was also just that mentality of we really want to put out the best material possible to follow up the last record, and with whatever we were going to follow up with the Fear Factory tour. We've been very selective about what we choose to do since then, because we really want to make sure that everything that we're doing is aligning ourselves with the right people, the right bands that we want to be alongside. And when it comes to the release of these songs specifically, we were just very picky. We wanted to make sure that we put out the best of the best, and we have written a lot of material since then. Yourself, Justin Bullock, and Josiah Westwell played together in a hardcore punk band called The Havoc in 2006. What was it for you, Jason, and you guys to form a punk band, The Havoc, then go to Spades and Blades? What was that transition? So that band formed back in 2001, and that was when I was fresh to Southern California. I was right out of high school, and I moved there to pursue music with Justin. And at the time, I was just very deeply involved into the whole punk rock movement. That whole scene was what, I had grown up on. And so we did that from 2001 to 2006 and really cut our teeth on, learning to write songs together and getting out on the road together and working with a record label and putting out music. And it was kind of our introduction into the music industry. But by the time 2006 rolled around, we had kind of seen all that was to offer in the scene that we were involved with specifically. And the ceiling is just very low. And for me, I've always been someone who is very ambitious and really wants to strive for the best. And I just thought that we could achieve so much more if we
change things up a bit. And at first, when we started Spades and Blades, we wanted to be more of like a hard rock band, kind of like this mashup between Motorhead and Motley Crue.
Oh, nice.
So, that was just kind of what we were into at the time. And, writing songs like that were more challenging than songs that we had been writing previously as a punk band. So that, was kind of our first step into raising the bar. And then as time went on, we just realized that there was a lot going on in the heavy music community that we really liked, but that there was a lot more potential there for us to have a solid career. So we started gradually getting heavier and heavier, and again, just upping the bar each time to improve as musicians. And through that process, there were a lot of lineup changes and just life happening. But essentially, it brought us to where we're at now, which is, the heaviest we've ever been and the best songwriting we've ever done. And I think that's just part of the process and growing.
So, Jason, with this current new lineup, though, for Spades and Blades, has these new members added that extra kick in the ass that it possibly needed, if that's the correct way to say it?
Definitely. Since the end of the Fear Factory tour, the bass player that we had then, who was new at the time, he actually left to become a professional guitar tech, and he was actually teching for Dino Cazares at first, but he's since rejoined the band while still maintaining a career as a professional guitar tech. And our drummer that was with us on the Fear Factory tour, and he recorded drums on The End Is Near, he actually decided to leave the band and pursue his career with motorcycles. He's got his own business with that. And so we ended up getting another friend of ours on drums who has actually teched for us before when we were on tour with Insight. His name is Will Peacock. And, man, he's one of those drummers that, I never get tired of watching play. He just, you can hear on the songs that are on the EP, he definitely delivers that hard punch. And when it comes to our bass player, John Douglas is his name, he's just kind of this rambunctious character. And on stage, that's a lot of fun, but also just in his playing style, he's quite aggressive. So that also ups the ante in terms of how hard the songs are. And also, since then, we went back to being a two-guitar band. There was a period there where we were a two-guitar band, and then that guitarist that you had mentioned previously, Josiah, who started Spades and Blades with us, he left. And when he left, we just dropped down to a one-guitar band. But then we decided to go back to two guitars, and we added Tyler Morgan to the lineup. He's an excellent guitarist. You can hear his proficiency on this EP. One song in particular that has a really great guitar solo, but his songwriting ability too, he kind of brought a fresh perspective there. But Justin and I also have kind of our own style that is evident on the EP too. So I think this lineup as a whole is definitely showcasing the best of everyone's abilities, and it shines through on the songs.
Beat the Odds is Spades and Blades' new EP. Writing this EP, did it push you out of your comfort zone from what you're used to doing, or was this pretty much an easy feat of songs to write for you?
It definitely pushed us out of our comfort zone. As I mentioned before, we've always kind of had this approach of raising the bar, but once we completed that tour and Dino Cazares mentioned that he had interest in producing us, he started critiquing a lot of things. And our manager at the time was also critiquing a lot of things. And so it was beneficial to us to have fresh ears on what we were writing, but also fresh ears that were very experienced and could help give us some guidance in our songwriting and what we should try and what we should stay away from. And so there was a lot of songs that, kind of got put under a big microscope. and were said, yeah, this one, there's some potential with this one, so let's keep working on this one. Or another one where it was like, this just feels too generic. I don't think that we should venture off further into this one. Let us just put it to the side, and maybe we'll revisit it later. But the song, Beat the Odds, the title track of the EP, was one of the first songs that was written after the Fear Factory tour. And Dino really loved that song, especially the chorus. He called me after I sent him the demo version. And when I answered the phone, he didn't even say anything. He just started singing the chorus, and he was just like, that's the money right there. That's what I'm talking about. So it was really great to have that feedback to help us, make better decisions about our songwriting. Whereas everything else that we had done previously was always self-produced, and we didn't have that. We didn't have guidance from people that, have been involved in the industry as long as Dino or a former manager have been.
Oh, and that had to be a huge spark for you guys, getting that praise from Dino. Like you said, he's been with Fear Factory for years, and I wish Fear Factory would come back and do something. That's my take.
You and me both, man. Yeah. That whole relationship has been so unexpected, but so deeply appreciated from me and everyone else in the band. When we got the opportunity to go on tour with Fear Factory, all of us are fans, and, they have such a wide catalog of songs that, different albums have impacted each of us differently. So we were really excited, but, kind of unsure what to expect in terms of, what the rapport would be, or if we would really even have the opportunity to socialize with those guys or not. But right off the bat, those guys were very welcoming to us, and they made us feel right at home on the road with them. And as each day passed, we kind of got to hang out a little bit more, got to know each other a little bit more, and Dino started kind of pulling me aside more and more, just, him and I talking about music, talking about the band, talking about Fear Factory, and talking about the road and all of those things. So we kind of started to form a friendship on the road, and then that continued when the tour was over. And, that is a relationship that continues to this day, and I've been invited to a lot of family events as well as the rest of the guys, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to hang out with those guys.
What's impressed or maybe even excited you the most about making this EP, Beat the Odds? When you look back on this, Jason, what impresses you or excites you the most about it?
The quality of the production. That is something that I have strived for my entire career as a musician. And, there are records that the songs are good, but the production quality is not there. And there are songs where the production quality is there, but the songwriting isn't. So for me, I've always strived to have both, the marriage of both. And that really came together on this EP once we started working with Chris Collier. And he's a fantastic engineer and a great producer. He had a big hand in developing these songs with us as well. And that's another relationship that we're very grateful to have, and another set of ears that we're grateful to have, again, critiquing what we're doing and putting things under the microscope, but then again, using his talents and abilities to put those finishing touches on the song so that not only is the songwriting there, but they just sound incredible because the production quality is there.
So how long did it take to write and complete this album getting ready to drop tomorrow for you guys?
The songs that are on it, most of them were written over the course of the last 2 years, but they've been through various stages. And so the short answer is a long time. It's been 3 years of writing to get to this point. But a couple of the songs, were written just like within the last year. But those kind of came together once we added Tyler into the band. So there are some songs on there that were written before we added him, that he came in later and, kind of put his spin on them. And then there's songs on there that are more his songwriting style. And those ones, like I said, were written over the course of like the last year.
Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on the EP? I know you're close to these. I know that you've been working with these for a very long time. And I know it must change every time you listen to it or talk about these. But do you have any that stand out for you possibly, Jason? Maybe.
They all stand out. I'm I'm not just saying this because it's my band. All of these songs are killer, but they're all a little bit different from one another. They're still definitely within the same vein, but there are differences within them that separate them so that they are good on their own, but they still really work well together with all of the songs. And, each of them have a bit of a different feel, a different mood to them. So I think that they can impact listeners on different levels, and some people are going to like some of the other songs more than others, I'm sure. But, we're talking about my babies. This is our babies. And I really think that every song kicks ass.
Now, I know you mentioned Beat the Odds is one of the songs on here, but I just want to throw out my two that I like on here. And I'm not saying this, just because you're on here. I'm just saying this because this is true for me to get to listen to this music. But I like Burned Alive and Stand My Ground. I like those two songs. I can't tell you specifically what it's like, those two songs that stand out more. I just like them because they're heavy and they're just right in your face. I like that stuff. I don't like this, BSing around. I like it just straightforward to the face and done. I like that heaviness stuff. So these are two good tracks on here, but I'm not going to ruin this for everybody else. You need to pick this up because it's as well worth your money that you're going to spend on this. Trust me. There isn't a bad song on this. So those two are my favorite ones on here.
That's awesome, man. I actually really like both of those a lot too. And it's funny, listening to songs in the demo stage versus the final produced stage can be so deceiving, because Stand My Ground, when we were tracking that in the demo phase, I didn't really care for it. I mean, there were parts of it that I thought were cool, but I wasn't sold on it completely. And then I said, you know what, dude, get out of your head, just be the vocalist, write the lyrics, write the vocal melodies, trust your band that they know what they're doing when it comes to writing their riffs and whatever, and just go for it. So once I started getting all of the vocals and, all the lyrics in place for it, I started to like it a little bit more. But I really liked the intro specifically, and I thought, man, this could just really hit somebody hard in the face as the opening to this EP. I think this could be a really solid opening. And so I just trusted my gut with that and decided, let's move forward with this one as one of the ones that we do with the EP. And fortunately, everyone was in agreement on that, because the end result is fantastic. I love listening to that song, and it's one of the ones that has surprised me the most how much I actually really love it.
Was it hard to choose between these current set of songs, which one you guys wanted to have as the first single or video you wanted to release or push first for this EP? Or I know you had to have outside help to decide on this, but was it kind of difficult to choose one?
Absolutely. When you write the songs and, like you said, you're so close to them, you like all of them for different reasons, and you think, oh, this one could be cool to release because of this and that and the other. But that's where George and Randy really came into play. Beat the Odds, we actually released the music video for that last year. And it's a slightly different version. If you listen to the version that's on YouTube for the music video versus the one that's on the EP, and you really study it, you can hear the differences. But, most people aren't, in passing going to really pick up on that. But when we sat down with George and Randy for the first time, George had a very clear-cut plan. And it was his idea to move forward with an EP because we've got enough material to record 2 albums. But he said, no, it's been too long already. We need to get something out now. And I think that Beat the Odds is your best song with what you have finalized at the moment. And I think that we need to move forward with that as what we use to promote the release date of the EP. And then after we put out the EP, we can focus on another single. But, again, these are industry professionals that we know have a lot of experience, that we trust their opinions. And we decided, okay, we like that plan, so let's move forward with it. So that helped make things a lot easier because when you're in a band, you'll just go back and forth with each other over what the next best step is. Because everybody has a different idea and a different opinion as to why that idea is the best moving forward. So having that outside input really did make things easier.
Now, I know also you guys last year released the single and music video for My Worst Enemy that featured Brandon Chapati of Bleeding Through, which Bleeding Through just came out with a new album last year before last. So how was working with him on this, man? Because they're a pretty big band, actually.
Bleeding Through is a great band, more Southern California metalcore. In my personal opinion, the band is vastly underrated, and they have been their whole career. But Brandon is a great guy, and he and I have had several conversations over the last couple of years about the industry and about their band and our band, and that's another relationship that I'm just grateful to have because I respect Brandon as a person and as a vocalist. But when we pitched the idea to him about doing guest vocals on the track, he was gung-ho to do it. I mean, there was no hesitation on his end. He's a very busy guy, so getting him in the studio to finalize it took some time, but it was worth the wait. And I love how that song came out. That song is actually the first song that we wrote after the Fear Factory tour. And we have another version of that song that doesn't feature Brandon's vocals. It's all of my vocals and Justin's vocals. But we wanted to wait to release it because we wanted to involve somebody else in it. So Brandon just felt like the right choice because that song has some feel to it that's similar to Bleeding Through, but it also has elements to it that feel similar to Fear Factory. But we chose to release it as just a single and not include it on the EP because that song doesn't specifically say, this is Spades and Blades sound. You can just hear a little bit more of our outside influences, apparently on that track. And George, his opinion was, this is a cool track, but it doesn't say to me, this is what Spades and Blades sounds like. And especially, since Brandon's vocals are on it, that gives it even more of the Bleeding Through sound, which I love. I think that track is perfect the way it is. So I'm not, disappointed that we chose to do it that way. I think it's great, and I'm grateful that Brandon was a part of it.
I know you mentioned earlier that you guys had a lot of songs written that's not been put out on an album yet. When you start working on a full length down the road, are these songs going to be on it, or are you guys just going to start just writing new stuff?
I doubt these songs will be on it. I don't know that for sure. That would all just depend on how things progress in the future and, if there's a label involved and, what they would like to do. I mean, there's just a lot of questions I don't have answers to at the moment, but I do know that we have a lot of material that is in various stages of production, and I don't think there's any point in re-releasing these songs on an album in the future because we have so much other material in the wings. But if, whoever we're working with in the future says, no, we really want, this song or that song to be on the record, I'm not going to argue with them on that. I'm still proud of these songs, no matter if they're just released on this EP and that's it, or if they end up coming out later on our next record. I'm proud of all of them.
Jason, what do you hope everyone takes away, or message you hope they hear while listening to any of Spades and Blades music in general? What do you hope they take away from your music?
Well, the name of the EP and the title track song really is the message. Beat the odds. Whatever odds are against you, you can beat them if you put your mind to it, you stay positive, and you believe in it. And if you listen to all of these songs on the EP, they convey a similar message. It's presented a little bit differently with each track, but our mission as a band is to empower people to believe that they can achieve whatever they set their mind to, that they can actually achieve their goals, reach their dreams, etc., if they believe in themselves and if they continue to push through whatever obstacles are put in front of them. You have to believe, and you have to beat the odds.
Who did the artwork or cover photo for the EP?
Okay, so there are 2 cover photos that I think have been released to people like yourself. So I'm not sure which one you're seeing. Is it the one with the King Cobra on it, or is it the one that has the Spades and Blades symbols logo?
No, mine don't have anything. All I got is the tracks. That's it.
Okay. So there's a single out right now, Beat the Odds, the title track of the EP. That's on our Spotify as a single right now. And its cover artwork was actually hand-drawn by a good friend of ours, and his name is Robert. And, you know, we told him that we wanted something that would represent the King of Spades. And at first we were trying to take, like, the King of Spades from the playing cards and put a King Cobra's head on it. And just no matter how we tried to proportion it, it just didn't ever look right. So then we just decided to use the King Cobra on its own, but then use colors that are from the King of Spades playing card as the body of the snake. So that's why there's those blues and yellow and red and all that in there. For the cover of the EP itself, the logo that is on there was designed by myself. It is 2 blades crossed in the form of an X, and there are spades to fill the voids on the sides and below them. There are 3 spades and 2 blades, which represents each member of the band. There are 5 members of the band, so there are 3 spades, there are 2 blades. And there is more to that story too, which I'd be happy to share if you would like me to include it.
Sure, go right ahead.
The meaning behind the band name, Spades and Blades, as I mentioned before, the King of Spades, that is where we essentially got the idea for the story behind the band and the band's name. If you research the playing cards, the King of Spades is actually based on King David. And King David defeated Goliath. And no one thought that he especially would be able to do it. No, you know, they thought that Goliath was unbeatable, that nobody would ever take him down, especially someone like David, who was the scrawny guy. But that did not deter David to destroy Goliath. And I mean, literally, he chopped his head off with his sword and raised it in victory to all of the spectators. So if you look at the King of Spades playing card, there are spades and blades on it. There are 2 blades on it because the image is inverted. There is the right side up and the upside down, and no matter which way you're looking at it, you are seeing King David hold his sword high. But there are also spades on the card to represent the suit it belongs to. So based on that story of King David beating the odds, that's why we chose to name this EP Beat the Odds, and why the title track is our motto as a band and what the band represents. Again, it is that idea that nothing is unattainable, no enemy is unable to be defeated. You just have to believe in yourself and know that you can do it, and you will.
I know you mentioned earlier the growth of the band from where it started and everything, but has this been more of a personal growth as well for you guys?
Yeah, there's been a lot of personal growth and a lot of growing pains. Justin and I are not, the youngest guys in the band. We've been doing this for a little while. And as we have gotten deeper into adulthood, of course, there are just challenges that present themselves. And many of those challenges make you question, how much of this is worth it? I love playing music. I'm passionate about being in a metal band, but at the same time, I'd like to have some sanity. And there's just not much of that to go around when you're trying to uphold all of your responsibilities as an adult, your responsibilities to your family, pay your bills, and hold your job, and all of those things that all of us have to deal with. But then you throw into the mix, you've got to be at rehearsal 2 nights a week minimum, and you've got shows to plan for, or songs to write, or whatever. All those things are time consuming, and they're taking away time from other things in your life that are also important to you. So yeah, that there's the growth into manhood, but there's also the growth as a musician, achieving things that we have always wanted to achieve since we were little kids. But then there's other guys in the band that are younger than us that having that kind of young blood in the band definitely helps propel things forward, because they have more time to devote to the project. And so that helps move things along too. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of personal growth, and there's a lot of band growth, all of which I'm proud of, but it has been a long road to get to this point, that's for sure.
What does Spades and Blades bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now? I know no one's reinventing the wheel, but what are you guys adding to that wheel of music, man?
I think what we're adding to it is the message. There's certainly some bands out there that are putting out that positive message, but I don't think that there's necessarily one band that is using that as their motto and what the band represents. Musically, what do we bring to the table? I think that we're incorporating a lot of elements that are contemporary, that are for the young metalcore fan, but there's also influence in our songs that range back to older bands, from the 80s and the 90s, that are traditional metal, but with a contemporary spin on them, so that the older crew, the lifers as I like to call them, can appreciate what we're doing. Even if they're not the biggest fan, if we're a little too contemporary for them, or whatever the case may be, I still think that they can listen and say, okay, this might not be exactly my cup of tea, but I really respect what this band's doing.
What can fans expect at a show from Spades and Blades who have not got to see you guys play as of yet? What are they going to get when they come to see you live?
Obliteration.
Yes, sir.
We strive to put on a solid performance. We really want people to enjoy the live versions of the songs just as much as they do the recorded versions. I think that our songs translate well live, and there's certainly that energy from us as we're performing them. We're always focusing on how can we deliver the most solid performance that people will not only enjoy listening to the songs live, but they'll enjoy watching us perform them. So I think that's important, to not just be a great band that people want to listen to, on their Spotify playlist or just in their day-to-day at work, but also when they see you live, that the energy just translates even further to where when they walk away from that experience, it is exactly that. It's an experience that they won't forget.
So these different versions of songs, though, Jason, could we possibly see them released down the line?
That's a good question. I don't think that it's an impossibility. I think that would really just kind of depend on the future of who we're working with. I mean, we can do whatever we want as an independent act, but we're very particular about what we do. Now, I've, heard stories from bands that are signed artists and they want to do things like release B-sides of songs just so that they can wrap up their contract with whatever label they're working with so they can get out of it and move on to the next thing. So I don't know if we would ever be in a situation like that, but if we were, I think that could be one way that those songs could see the light of day, or those versions of the songs, I should say. But I don't know. I think that there's something special about the demo version, kind of being withheld from listeners, just because as time goes on and the popularity of the band grows, then those songs kind of they have the ability to age like wine. And then when you have a large following that would really appreciate hearing those versions, it's kind of like, you didn't set them out of the gate too early.
I know some people, they don't like to hear the songs as a demo, but I like to. I like to see how that song got built to its finished product. I like to see where it changed and things like that. And you see where the work comes in, at least I do, when I hear the demo compared to what's actually the product pushed out there. I think it's cool.
Right.
I think it's cool to see where it comes from. That's me personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time is AC/DC. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of demo material that they've released of, their classic songs. And it's interesting to hear that. Same with, like, Guns N' Roses. You're talking about one of the biggest rock bands of all time, but the demo version of Sweet Child O' Mine, the first time I heard that, I was really surprised because there's a hook in that song that I really love, but it only happens once in the song. But in the demo version, it's in there twice, and it almost ruins it for me.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, hearing, like you said, hearing the song in demo form and versus the final product and the differences is unique, and it does show the growth of the band, but also the outside input from whoever's producing or whoever's engineering, all of those things make a huge difference.
And for all you AC/DC fans out there, it's not it was confirmed to me today during another interview that AC/DC is going on tour. So it's not it's a rumor.
Really?
It's a rumor supposedly right now, but I got confirmation in an interview earlier that it is going to happen. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, I was fortunate enough to see them at Dodger Stadium a few years ago. My first time seeing them, and I was so stoked. I went by myself. I couldn't find anybody else that wanted to buy a ticket because they were expensive, of course. But I didn't care. I was going to that come hell or high water. Mm-hmm. And it was great. They and on that run of that tour, Brian Johnson was still doing vocals. And, of course, they had Chris Slade on drums for that tour, which thrilled me because I love the Monsters of Rock performance with Chris Slade.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the Razor's Edge album that he's on, I really like that. I love his drumming style. It's just so sharp and driving. So I was really excited to be able to see AC/DC with Chris Slade on the kit.
And he's been on the show, actually. So,
really?
Yes, Chris Slade has been on the show. So
very cool.
To me, that's metal royalty, and he's a great drummer. You cannot. Some people's going to have their say, but I think he's a damn good drummer.
Yeah, I agree.
So, what made you want to become a musician? What was that spark for you, Jason? That said, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Freddie Mercury.
Nice, that's awesome.
The very first time I heard Another One Bites the Dust, I couldn't have been more than, well, I shouldn't say the very first time I heard it. The very first time I recall hearing it. I'm sure I had heard it in passing prior to this, but the time that it struck me, at my core, I had to have been 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, something like that. And, that song is like one of Queen's heaviest songs. I mean, sure, they still have other songs that are in that low guitar tuning, but something about them pulling back on the tempo and just that solidarity in the bass with that rhythm pattern just makes that song feel so heavy. And then, of course, you can't deny Freddie Mercury's vocals. So the first time I heard that, I said, I don't know what that is, but that is what I want to do. I love that. And so I've been chasing that ever since.
Is there a country that stands out or shocks you that Spades and Blades get support from, or your music even gets played?
The United States of America.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm serious, man. You know, other countries, they go crazy for metal, and they appreciate American bands so much. But the U.S. market is so hard. You know, it's died off a lot in this country, unfortunately, and there is such a saturation of bands that it makes it very difficult to stand out and compete. So when I'm looking at, like, you know, our analytics on Spotify, you know, it shows where people are listening and stuff. I'm always the most surprised when I'm seeing, you know, California or New York or Chicago or, you know, any A market city. It's just so tough to penetrate those places. But anytime I see someplace in the Midwest, like, you know, Texas or Oklahoma, which is where I'm from originally, you know, those places, I'm like, all right, those people get it. You know, they're stoked on it. But it doesn't matter to me, honestly. Like, as long as people, I don't care where they're from. If our music is reaching their ears and they appreciate it and they want to listen to it again and again and again, then I'm excited that, you know, our music crossed into their path and hopefully is impacting their life in some way positive, you know, especially if they're paying attention to the lyrics.
Folks, you want to get out and pick up Spades and Blades EP, which comes out tomorrow, Beat the Odds. You want to pick this bad boy up and give it a chance. You will not be disappointed in this. So, Jason, how can folks stay in touch with you guys? Buy some merchandise, all the information, plus Beat the Odds EP. How can they do that?
They need to get to our Spotify page. They need to click the follow button. They need to add whatever songs of ours that they like to their playlist. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, that's all good. You know, Instagram is definitely a great way to get in touch with us. But what a lot of people don't know is that Spotify is also turning into a social media platform. And so people need to be following us there. And the more they are listening to us on Spotify and getting our streams up, the more Spotify's algorithm is going to pick up on that and distribute our music into their playlist, which has a very, very, very wide audience. So if people want to support us, Spotify is the place to do it.
Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Oh, I'd be honored to do that, yes. This is Jason Todd of Spades and Blades, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great, great stuff coming up. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out, check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and please, folks, subscribe to our YouTube page. Anything and everything that we do on BODS Mayhem Hour is going up on that page, and plus the podcast link, as always. You also want to get out and check out Spades and Blades. Check out their new EP tomorrow, Beat the Odds. You will not be disappointed. Pick this bad boy up. And Jason, man, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck.
I really appreciate that, man. You know, tomorrow, Friday, October 18th, Beat the Odds is released, and we're hoping that it gets out there to the metal masses and that they will be raising their fists to the air and banging their head.
And I like to say this before we go. Patrick Smith from Kill Your Radio, we lost you this past Sunday at the Exit 111 Metal Festival. This place is not going to be the same without you. Going to these festivals and doing coverage will not be the same not seeing you there. So rest in peace, my friend. May you still be rocking out in heaven, and I hope you get that awesome, awesome interview in heaven, my friend. And for all the folks out there, please play it loud and proud for Pat. Play something very heavy for him. And I'll see you guys next time on BODS Mayhem Hour. Thanks, Jason.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.